Welcome to a new episode of the No Hack Show, a weekly podcast where we discuss many different ways you can optimize your online presence. Today, we're going to talk about hyper-segmentation in emails, why it can potentially hurt you in the long run, and what you should do instead. Joining me today to shed light on this matter is a CXL instructor and founder of Luck & Co agency. They help 7- and 8-figure e-commerce brands maximize their email and SMS revenue. She has over 100 tutorial videos in YouTube. Kasey Luck. Kasey, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting. Do I have over 100 videos on YouTube? I had no idea. I think I have fewer. If you count shorts, then yes. But I think long videos, I'm not sure. But that's been the goal. So are you telling me I hit my goal? That's awesome.
Yeah, you actually, it's like 100 plus. I do see shorts and then there are longer form videos. They're awesome. By the way, guys, you have to check out Kasey Luck. Find her on YouTube. She has great video quality and very helpful tutorials if you're into e-commerce.
Thank you so much.
I consume
Thanks,
a lot,
Catherine.
so
Yeah,
trust me.
We put a lot of work in those. And something that I'm really proud of is that all of the tips and strategies that I share, they come directly from experience. And I'm still very deep in the weeds of actually running email and SMS marketing for e-commerce brands. So it's all like very fresh, real experience versus best practices, listicles that marketing people write that are outdated or don't even work anymore. So that's what makes my YouTube channel different. So if the listeners find that type of content helpful and interesting, please check me out for sure on YouTube. Kasey Luck, Kasey with a K, Luck as in Luck.
Yes, definitely. We will share the link on the description later. Before we get started to everything email, this made me chuckle because I was trying to research for this episode. You posted this tweet like some time ago. You said the greatest productivity tip is having a baby.
When I posted that, my husband rolled his eyes and he was like, "This is so trite. Like everybody says that. Could you not have come up with something more creative?" I'm like, shut up. It's true for me.
This is my Twitter. I couldn't agree more because I never thought of myself as a morning person until I had babies. So now it's like my body clock's up at 6 a.m. Like, let's go.
Yeah. And you're able to cram so much more work into the time that you have, just simply because you know you won't have more time. So yeah, for sure.
So maybe we get started with what was the origin story of Luck & Co?
Yeah, well, I've been doing email marketing my whole career. I kind of fell into it in my first role after college, and then I continued with it. And then for a couple of years, I was an independent consultant, and I worked with a bunch of different companies doing a bunch of different types of marketing, everything from event marketing to conversion rate optimization, a lot of email marketing too, and then a bunch of things in between. And I've been searching for a way to focus and niche down. And then I was doing what I called a year abroad. I was living in different countries for a whole year, kind of a month in each destination, in each city. And I think it was when I was in Barcelona, it kind of came to me that this niche could be e-commerce and I could just do email and SMS marketing for e-commerce and that's it. Actually, at that time, it was just email marketing because SMS marketing wasn't even a thing yet. So just email marketing, just for e-commerce, that's it. And I really liked that idea. I ran it by a few friends, but I was in Barcelona, really enjoying my life. And I think it was fall of 2019. Yes. And I was thinking, should I start this thing now or should I just enjoy Barcelona for a few months and start this next year? Because I was planning to return to the US by 2020. And so I decided to chill and enjoy Barcelona. And in January 2020, I was back in the States and I started this agency. And as we all know, March 2020 is when the pandemic hit and the lockdown started. And with all of the horrible things that it brought, it actually was a very big wave for e-commerce that, fueled the growth for a lot of e-commerce brands. And so I think I was lucky in that sense that I caught that wave, and that's exactly when I was searching for brands to help with and growing my agency. And then from there, we grew fairly quickly, and I started adding people to my team. And now we're about 15 people.
Nice.
And we're still on it. And now we're still very focused, and we're only doing email and SMS marketing for e-commerce. And then all of the things that are adjacent to it, but still very, very focused. And I think that's what makes us really different, because we're able to go very deep, because we do like only this one thing. We don't go into acquisition. We don't do ads or social media. So we know our stuff really, 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 really well. Actually, funny thing, I always bring this up, but I literally, before getting on this podcast, I had like 5 minutes, and I was going back and forth with a Klaviyo support agent where we were trying to do something and they were telling us that it's not possible. And I just came up with how we can do it in Klaviyo last night. And so I emailed them back and I was like, hey, what if I do it this way? And then they got back to me and they were like, yeah, this actually is possible. So that just shows, like, because we only do this one thing and we mostly just do it on Klaviyo, we're able to do things that even Klaviyo things are impossible, but we find a way.
That's so cool. I've had a bit of experience with the platform and done a lot of webinars of the Klaviyo's running. They're now really positioning themselves as a data platform, not just email. So it just goes to show that it's really a powerful platform, because you've worked with a lot of e-commerce brands, and this might be your client or any other brand under the sun. Have you seen like a breakout e-commerce brand this year?
So I was thinking about this question, and I could mention a couple of different brands, but well, I'll mention two.
Okay.
And one of them is like very big, and I was wondering if I should promote it, but why not? I really enjoy Feastables by what's his name? Mr. Beast, like a very famous YouTuber.
Yeah.
He started a DTC brand called Feastables, and they sell like snacks, chocolates, and stuff like that. Very fun brand, cool branding, cool email and SMS marketing. So that's a brand that I love watching, just to kind of like get inspired and get ideas. And then another brand that is probably not a breakout yet, but I want them to be a breakout. It's called Tings. They sell jackfruit chips. And I just have a personal story with them. I was walking around in San Francisco. I was on a date with my little baby, with my probably 6-month-old at the time. And we were just like walking around in San Francisco. And there was this woman giving out samples of those chips. And so I got it and I tried it and I liked it. And then I ended up buying a pack from her. And then I came back and I was like, are you the founder? And she's like, yes, I'm the founder. And I checked out their website, and they have a pretty cool e-commerce website. And I just loved how that founder was still hustling and still on the street, still giving out samples. And I think everybody should check them out. It's called Tings Chips. Jackfruit chips, super tasty, but also very, very cool marketing. And I think they're doing great considering that they're small. And I'm sure like this founder is probably still doing their own email and SMS messages.
That's awesome. I will check out those brands. I was kind of expecting like maybe, one of those big skincare brands that you see a lot on TikTok, which are,
I am not on TikTok. I'm really old school. I'm an email person. Also, I'm not into skincare personally, but we've worked with a couple of skincare brands.
Right. I'm not also on TikTok. I just, read about this excellent case studies that they're doing on TikTok. I'm also old, so I can relate.
just to set the record straight, we're old. No, but I should be on TikTok more, to be quite honest with you. It's, it's great to discover trends and marketing trends included. So
yeah, they said it's a good nudge. Search engine for like recipes, all the mom things. Great. So going back to email, this one is quite fresh. I just wanted to point this out. I think you published this yesterday. You mentioned in that video that an average of 80% of your customers won't be coming back to purchase again, and why post-purchase flows is very important. Sometimes it's more important than your abandoned cart flows. Can you just tell us a bit more about this before we talk about segmentation?
Yeah, I love that you watch the videos on YouTube. Thank you. I recorded that video like quite a while ago, more than 3 weeks ago, so it's not as fresh in my memory anymore. But I would say post purchase is definitely as important as your abandoned checkout flow. And the example that I was showing in that video is that if you do post purchase flow right, it can generate more revenue for you than the abandoned checkout flow. And I showed an actual example from one of our brands, a fairly large brand actually, and what the welcome flow is their number one revenue generator in terms of how flows go. Post purchase is number two, and then abandoned checkout. The reason it's so important is because, like, to be profitable and to grow sustainably as an e-commerce brand, you need to have your retention dialed in, because especially today, acquisition is so expensive. Acquisition is really, really tough for brands. And a lot of brands are actually losing money on that first purchase. And they're counting on the second purchase to make that money back and, become net profitable. So, like, that's why post-purchase flow is important, because it's going to help you get that person, get that customer back, get them purchasing again. You can also do a lot of things in that post-purchase flow to increase their AOV. So it should be every brand's focus. And I think the welcome flow and abandoned checkout flow get a lot of attention, and most brands have that set up, even if it's like bare minimum, even if it's just one email, they do have it. And post-purchase, not as many brands have that set up. So
Right.
I wanted to shed a little bit of light into that flow, and that video ended up being 25 minutes. I just saw one that got published the other day, but it seems like people are finding it useful. It's gaining traction really fast.
And I love that when I saw this, it was like so related to my previous recording with Adam Kitchen. He was talking about leveraging transaction emails. So these
Mm,
are your usual shipping updates that I'm surprised some are still using the default looking email updates that are, I guess they are the out of the box templates from their email provider. And he was saying this is an excellent opportunity to start that relationship or engage with the users at the onset, because these are usually they're more engaged because they're looking for when their product will be delivered. And I was like, yeah, I didn't really know that that was that much of a importance. So making sure that it's well branded, you put an effort to the copy that you write there, that will help influence the repeat purchase, hopefully later down the journey.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. The post purchase flow that I was talking about in the video that we're just discussing is slightly different from all of the transactional emails that come post purchase, but those transactional emails are also super important. As you said, actually, the majority of brands still have that. Those transactional emails are very generic and out of the box, and most of the time just Shopify emails. And something that we do is also help customize that and brand that properly, and use that opportunity to engage, re-engage, up engage the
Right.
customer and get them to
Mhm.
become a repeat customer faster and more often.
Awesome. So now let's talk about segmentation. But before that, I think we all agree that email is a very important channel, but the real main goal is to drive the customers back to your website so they engage or consume your content, sign up for an event, purchase again. I just want to point out before talking about, the nitty gritty of segmentation. So first, when you talk to an email marketer or
Mm-hmm.
to any email blog articles that you'll see, they would often say, start segmenting. That's how you get, more engagement, more clicks, more, higher KPIs when you do segment. In fact, I'm not sure where I saw this, but you mentioned that I think in one of your LinkedIn posts, segmented campaigns have 40% higher open rate and 100% higher click through rate. So why or why not segment? So I guess let's go one step back. What is hyper segmentation, just so that we're on the same page?
Yeah, right. I think that's a really great place to start. So I think I just came up with that term, hypersegmentation, but what I mean when I say hypersegmentation is you create different and unique campaigns for very small targeted segments. I want to make sure that I draw a line and discuss the difference between hypersegmentation and normal segmentation, just so people don't think that I like argue against segmentation in general. That's not true. Every campaign that you send to your email list should be segmented. And what that means is that you shouldn't send it to your entire list. And instead, you should narrow down the audience just enough so that you're sending to as many people as possible, while also not hitting the people who are unengaged and who wouldn't be receptive to this type of content. Usually, what that means on practice, like tactically, it means segmenting based on engagement. So you would have segments such as engaged 30 days, engaged 60 days, engaged 90 days. And those are the segments that you play with in terms of who you're including in your campaigns. And then you would have segments such as unengaged 90 days, or purchased in the last 7 days, or purchased in the last 14 days, marked as spam, bounced more than 2 times in the last 2 weeks, and other categories of people who are very likely to not welcome like any campaign that you send, and you want to exclude that from your campaigns. You should be doing that regularly for every single campaign that you send. What hyper-segmentation means is you build a campaign around a very narrow chunk of your audience. For example, if you're selling skincare, you say, hey, I want to send an email to women over 65 years old who have bought from us 2 or more times before. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to create content that's very specific to that audience. It wouldn't work for all of the other people on my list. It would only work for that little segment. So I'll create a whole campaign just for this narrow segment, and I'm going to send to them. But then, of course, you have that's probably 15% of your audience. You still need to communicate with the other 85% of your audience. So for all of the other chunks, you create very specific campaigns. So that's what I call hyper-segmentation. And it is a very, very effective strategy. However, something that I was arguing in my post on LinkedIn is that if you are a smaller brand, it simply doesn't make sense for you because your audience is small and because the opportunity cost for your team to focus on that versus something else is very, very high. So for large brands with, I would say, even depending on how narrow you go and how narrow targeted you go, I would say have at least 200,000 people in your email list and I don't know, 5+ people in your marketing team plus external partners, then you can dabble in all of that and start building your hyper segmentation strategy. But if you're smaller, do the basic segmentation based on engagement for all of your campaigns, but focus your efforts elsewhere because there are so many other things that are more effective for smaller teams with smaller lists and smaller budgets.
I love that picture that you painted there. So probably in that scenario, if I'm a small brand working on targeting those 65 plus women, I might see it's possible to see higher opens and higher clicks on that particular campaign. But what you're saying is, will it create an impact? Will it really increase the revenue in the long run? Or are we putting all our eggs in one basket that is so small and, consuming all the effort that the team has, who's also working on probably socials or other campaigns? So I think that's very clear that hyper segmentation, if you have, did you say 200,000? If you have less subscribers, then maybe it's not the right time yet to think about hyper segmentation.
Yeah, and maybe I kind of went a little bit too far with 200K subscribers, even 100K subscribers. If that's your more or less active email database, you can start thinking about hyper segmentation more. And maybe you can do it once per month where you build very specific campaigns for smaller segments, or twice per month, but still not every week. But then the larger your audience gets, the bigger the return you're going to get on this strategy. And yeah, for smaller teams, I would ask myself, what else can my team focus on that would bring a bigger impact to my business? And one obvious thing for me, if we're talking within, email and SMS only, is increasing the submit rate for your pop-up. Because if your list is smaller than 100K people, focus on growing that email list. And if your team is small, have them focus on A/B testing that pop-up and just having a very robust A/B testing strategy, policy, process until you get that pop-up submit rate up to like 10% submit rate or something or more. And your list is growing so much faster, that's going to get you a much higher ROI simply on your team's time than doing the hyper-segmentation.
Right. Just before we close, any particular, client that you've worked with, like a case study where you did, the more relevant segmentation and that proved that, sending campaigns to the most engaged list, to those who purchased in the last 30 days, and share how that performed?
Well, we do like the engagement-based segmentation that I mentioned for all of the brands that we work with and all of the campaigns that we send. So we never send two lists. We always send two segments. Right. And then we vary the segments that we send to based on the performance of previous campaigns. So if we're seeing that our metrics are increasing, open rate is great, click rate is great, we might go like a step wider in terms of the segment that we're sending to. And then on a case-by-case basis, we also consider who we want to exclude for particular campaigns. With brands who are larger that we work with, we'll start doing segments based on gender. And the campaign could be similar, but the imagery and the visuals would be more relevant to the particular gender. So we do an email specifically to female audience and then an email specifically to male audience. The language would be a little bit different. Visuals would be a little bit different. And sometimes like the angle would be a little different. So for example, for a supplements brand, it's a supplements brand. They sell a bunch of different stuff, including Manuka honey, which is famous for its antibacterial properties, I think, right?
But I take that every day.
That's great. But the majority of their audience are people who work out big time. So the assumption is that they're actually trying to eat less sugar, and that honey wouldn't sell that well for them. And the way men and women like think about sugar is slightly different. So we would segment based on the gender there and talk differently about, we're still selling the same product, but maybe the subject line would be slightly different. So for the male audience, it's like feeling sniffy, but still want to hit the gym. And we talk about how, like, if you're feeling like you're getting sick, just add a spoonful of this honey into your pre-workout smoothie, and you can still go to the gym and get your workout in. And then for a female audience, we tested a subject line, like something like we actually talked about sugar and how it's like, like you don't need to be afraid of sugar. I can't remember exactly what the subject line was, but we talked about how not all sugar is equal. And if you're going to the gym, a little bit of like carbs and sugar can actually help you get that energy up. And then like you still burn your calories or whatever. I don't exactly remember the content. We made sure that it's actually like true and makes sense. But that's the type of variations that you can do in your emails once your audience is large enough and you can segment. And still, right, female and male are still pretty broad audience. I wouldn't call this like hyper segmentation, but that's one example.
I love that example. Okay, so before we wrap up, I have like two other questions for you. So first is, what do you think lies ahead for email in 2023? And then I have like a more exciting part before we close the episode.
More exciting part. Let's get to the more exciting part. Well, one thing that I'm excited for email in 2023 is focus on transactional emails, which we kind of touched upon at the beginning. I think like the transactional email in 2023, probably next year, even more so, is what SMS marketing was like 2 years ago and last year. It's like the next big thing that everybody's going to be focusing on. And it's something that we're bringing to our clients, and we're seeing amazing results because transactional email was overlooked for a long time, but it's like prime real estate for marketing. And you can do it in a beautiful way where it's still bringing value to the recipient and it's still like utilitarian first, but you also brand it well and you make sure, like another buzzword in marketing right now is omni-channel, making sure that all of the different touch points that the customer has with your brand, they all make sense together. And transactional email and SMS are huge parts of that. And then maybe another thing is interactivity in email. So having more interactive emails, having things that where you hover over things in email, they like do stuff. That's something that we're experimenting with. It doesn't work in all email clients. It doesn't work as well on mobile, but some things do, other things don't. But it's a big, exciting thing as well.
Awesome. So we're on to the lightning round. I'm going to ask you like a series of questions. Just say the first thing that comes in your mind. Just say yes or no.
I feel like I'm on a TV show. Like, this is so exciting. Like, let's do it.
We're on the best part already. So adding call to actions to every email, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Stylized versus plain text, which is better?
Well, no, that's a trick question. Each has their own use case. Stylized for certain things, plain text is extremely effective. But if you only do plain text, then it loses its effectiveness. So plain text sparingly, stylized or like HTML designed for most things.
Got it. So it's both. Okay. Sending daily newsletters, yes or no?
That's a loaded question too. Like there are daily newsletters where the whole, like, are we talking about e-commerce? Yep. If we're talking about e-commerce, okay. So because there are other, like there are companies where their whole product is a daily newsletter, like The Hustle and
Morning Brew,
Milk Road, Morning Brew, right? Retail Brew, like daily newsletter is their entire thing. Yes, love it, amazing. For e-commerce, is it an actual newsletter? Like a newsletter, the way I understand newsletter is it's like a compilation of updates. Sending a daily newsletter? No, that sucks. Sending daily emails, daily campaigns, maybe. If your audience is huge, if you segment a lot and you're not hitting up all of your people every single day, then yes. But for most brands, for most e-commerce brands, daily campaigns, no.
No. Got it. Okay. Pop-ups or full covers?
Full covers have a higher submit rate in our experience and in our A/B testing. I know that Google doesn't like full covers, but if you're able to find a compromise there and not have your, like, whatever they're called, like SEO hurt too much by that, I would go with full covers. But also I would just A/B test everything. Like it performs differently for every single brand. In the majority of cases for us so far, full covers performed better than smaller pop-ups, but it might be different for you. So just A/B test. I have a video about A/B testing coming out on my YouTube channel very soon.
You guys should.
A little shameless plug.
Stay tuned. Right. Stay tuned for that one. Last two. Is customer loyalty through email a myth? Yes or no?
A myth? No, it's not a myth. That's the whole point of email, is to help increase customer loyalty.
Got it. Okay, so this last one might merit its own episode. Would you ever use AI tools to write your emails?
Yeah, I would. And I think our copywriters do use it to help them. So far, it can never create anything close to being like publishable. But I think it's great for research. It's great for getting the first draft in, like for a lot of things. But it's like nowhere close to be able to do what our copywriters do, at least on our team. It depends on which copywriter you compare that to. But definitely, yes, for like help, but not for just like getting something and then publishing it.
Got it. Kasey, you're awesome. I enjoyed that. I told you that was the best part of the episode. Do you have anything to promote? Like, where can people find you?
I feel like I promoted myself so much already, but there's my YouTube channel. Definitely go subscribe. It's awesome. I'm on LinkedIn. I try to publish helpful content on LinkedIn. So follow me on LinkedIn. Also Kasey Luck. And then if you're an e-commerce brand and if you're making 7 figures or more in annual revenue, then we might be a great fit for you if you're looking for help with your email and SMS and retention in general. So go check us out at luckandco.agency.
I appreciate your time today, Kasey. Thank you so much. That was fun. Thank you for sharing your email marketing strategies. If you found value in this episode, definitely connect with Kasey on LinkedIn. We'll share all the links on the description and subscribe to the podcast. I'll see you all next week.
Thank you, Catherine. Thanks for having me. This was a blast.